Welcome to the studio at That Nerd Show. I am Marcus Blake, and we are speaking with the filmmakers behind Waiting for the Light to Change. Great independent film that's starting the film festival circuit, and I'm going to let the filmmakers introduce themselves, starting with James.
Hi, my name is James Chai. I'm the executive producer on the film.
I'm Sam Straley. I'm an actor and producer on the film.
Hi, I'm Linh Tran, and I am the director and co-writer of Waiting for the Light to Change.
Okay. So I want to jump right into it. Beautiful film. It really was. I love the cinematography, love the lighting, and we'll get into all that a little bit later. But I want to dive into the inspiration about this film and how this all came about, especially when you had a budget of $20,000. Lynn, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you so much for the question. So we made the movie as part of the initiative at DePaul University called Indie Studio. And when I got to be part of this program, it was actually a different film that we were going to make. But then that was right when COVID started happening, and the film that we initially wanted to make, like, it wasn't very COVID friendly. You could like make that with $15,000-$20,000 when it is not COVID age, but when it was COVID age, it was quite impossible. So what we did was like, okay, we still can make a movie, right? Can we just write like a new thing and then do that? So that's what we did. And at the time, I didn't have a feature script ready to go. So I was like, okay, so let's tell an honest story. What do I know? What can I write about? What is like compelling and and people can watch and relate. And I think stick to what you know is always my it's the saying that I always say. I'm like, okay, so we're all 20 somethings, me and my crew. Most of them were in their early 20s or mid 20s, and we decided to write a movie about what is like to be in your early and mid 20s. And so Thanksgiving of 2020, one of my best friends that I was very, very close with when I was in college, she bought me a ticket to go on this Friendsgiving trip to Elizabethtown in Pennsylvania. It was really random. Yeah, and I did a little bit of journaling. I keep a journals, and I decided that was probably one of the ideas that we would like open to pursue. And it ended up being the movie. The movie is about female friendship, unrequited love, loss, and what it feels like to be in your 20s. And of course it was very autobiographical part of it, but everyone who worked on the film, we invited everybody to like bring a part of themselves to characters and the film. So yeah, it was a very short process of writing.
One of the things I noticed, and I don't know if this is true, so I'm going to ask, these conversations feel very natural. They don't feel very scripted. It's almost like you are, a very social setting or even a group therapy setting where people are just talking. And there's, again, there's no script. Did you write a lot of this dialogue, or did you just tell your actors you do it however you would say it?
So in pre-production, I worked on the script with two playwrights, and we did like improv while we were writing. We were on Zoom, and we wrote a lot of the script. We went through not that many drafts, and by the time we shot, I think we were like on the fourth or the fifth draft of a feature script, which I felt like, okay, we have to make it, so let's just go do it, and then let's see what happens. And we would have table reads every time a new draft is done. And then when we were on location and the actors were there, and we had the last table read of this script, and I would like hand out physical copies, and then we read it, and I was like, okay, give the script back here, you guys cannot have it. And then we have 1 week of rehearsals, and most of the rehearsals were just us, just doing little theater exercises and warm-ups and meditation and things like that. And by the end of it, we started doing improv in these rehearsals, and I would record them on my phone. I would go back to my room and rewrite it, and then I would present the script back with the lines that they said themselves. So it wasn't improving on set, but it was a lot of improv in rehearsals.
Well, question to you, Samuel, of being one of the actors and everything. You saw the script, you see the dialogue, but how much did that change for you, within your performance? Because again, everything feels very natural. Was it a lot of your own voice compared to the dialogue?
I mean, I don't really remember, the percentage of what, was in the script originally and what changed, but just the process was really free. And, like Ling said, she gave us a script and then she took it away and we weren't allowed to look at it. And so we had to like kind of navigate these scenes on our own. Ling would afterward tell us what she liked, and they would do different drafts and we would start playing around with that. But so I usually work in TV. I work on a show called Welcome to Flatch, which is on Fox right now. There's a lot of improv in that. Yeah. So I felt like I had a lot of a practice before going into this one. So we had a really good time together, and I had never been a part of a process like this where there was rehearsal, where there was a lot of improvising beforehand. Usually it happens on set and they kind of pick and choose the take that they like. So yeah, it was a really, really amazing, incredible experience working like that. And I definitely took a lot of notes from Ling.
I was going to comment. I actually just started watching that on Hulu, and very, very funny. I love mockumentaries. Mm-hmm. So that's got to be a very different process from you, doing kind of a mockumentary to more freestyling and being more natural and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, but I do want to compliment you. Great job, by the way.
Thank you.
So one of the reoccurring themes that we always love to talk about in film is location being its own character. You've got a lot of natural light coming through that really is metaphorical to the moods of the cast. But you tell me a little bit about how you came up with this particular location. I know you're dealing with a beach house, but a lot of forest and the barn scene where you're doing the group photo, very, very beautiful and how you captured it. But how did you come up? Why this location?
So as I said before, we had a different script, and then we had to come up with a new script for this film. And I had one of my producers, Jake, he said, do you guys want to go to my family's lake house? We could shoot something there. So that's Jake's family's lake house. And so before we started writing the script, me and my other producer, Jules, who also wrote the script with me, we went on a road trip. It was storming. There was like a snowstorm, and we were driving in the dark, and then we were there for one weekend, and it was snowing. It looked really gloomy and icy and sad. And what happened was we just like spent time just hanging out in the house, just drinking, and then Jake would take us to different places in the town that he was like, oh, let's go to this theater. Let's see if you like this. Let's go to the lighthouse. I remember we were like driving on this road. It's quite empty. It's a very, very empty like town because it's like a beach town and people are usually there in the summer and not in the winter or the spring. So we were driving and I was like, oh my God, look at that barn thing. That looks like an art installation. And then he was like, yeah, that one's good. There's another good one over there. And then we would like just like go there. And I'm like, okay, I like this one and this one and that one. And then we would write like scenes for them. And like for the barn, for example, didn't have to be like a huge scene or anything. It could be like a moment that yeah, that could be a little, I don't know, a little sweet moment in the movie.
But
yeah.
Thinking back, I mean, you really found like the perfect times during the day to capture that natural light. Was that intentional, or am I misinterpreting it and that was done in editing?
That was actually, we were literally waiting for the light to change there. We came there at, I think it was like probably 3 or 4, and we have this BTS photo of everybody just like joking around, like even rolling on the ground, just waiting for the sun to set. Because my DP, David, he was like, we could 15 more minutes. This is okay, but like just wait 15 more minutes. It's gonna be so much better, and you will thank me later. So yes, it was natural light for that scene in particular. Yeah.
So I'm sure you already know that this film is kind of being compared to a modern, day, The Big Chill. Which, by the way, little fun fact, it is the 40th anniversary of that movie this year. So I guess we could say this is the Big Chill 40 years later. But my question is, all of the characters are set in their 20s. Do you think this story, do you feel like it would be any better if you have characters, that were set in their 30s or 40s? Or did this particular story, it works best because you've got a cast that's coming out of college, starting life, jobs, trying to figure things out?
So I want to answer first, and then I would like, pass the baton to Sam and James for this question. For me, I think I just recently watched The Big Chill. So I have very fresh memory of like what that movie's like, and I appreciate and I'm honored to be compared with The Big Chill. I think the film would be a different film if it was with the characters who would be in their 30s or in their 40s, and I actually don't know what that would be like, because again, I made this when I was in my mid-20s. So I think the characters was what the film is. It's just like it's made of the characters, and if they are in their 30s and 40s, the characters would be very different. Definitely we could like keep the pacing and keep the style, but the story that we tell and these characters, they would have different concerns, or they would have different heartaches and different thoughts. Maybe the manner of speech wouldn't be the same. Maybe the monologues they say would be about something different.
I think everybody would be more cynical too. I mean, it kind of gave me a reminder of where I was at that time 20 years ago, before 9/11, before I was in the Army, and just kind of how scary life kind of was, but then how you ignore a lot of things because you feel like, you're still hopeful, things are going to work out, that kind of thing. So I feel like you guys captured that very well. And again, trying to deal with, love and regret, which is a universal theme. It doesn't really change between your 20s and your 40s. So, sorry, I'm getting to my next question there. You did this on such a limited budget, and you did it perfectly. with what you had. There's only been so many films that had a small budget that have really gone off to, have huge success and really, made lots of money. Again, kind of getting back to the same thing, with it being limited, you have to be more natural, and you have to kind of rely more on the dialogue in these situations. If you had a huge budget, do you feel like the film, while you could have added more, do you think it takes away from how natural and beautiful the story really is?
Ooh, that is a very good question.
That's a filmmaker's question, because you always wish you had more, that you could do more, but would it ruin the overall story?
Well, I would say some of the decisions, like the creative decisions that became like the signature of the film, definitely came out of the fact that we had limited resources. And I wouldn't say, like, I wouldn't change a thing. If we had more money, definitely there were things that we could improve, and it would be definitely a different, probably a slightly different film. I don't know if it would be better or it would be worse, just because, the reality is this is the movie that we made. So
Samuel, I have a question for you, though. I mean, you're great at comedy. Like I said, I'm now that I've gotten into your show, I've very much enjoyed it. Do you feel more natural doing comedy compared to, because this is a very dramatic film and you have to show a lot more of your inner self towards it? Does that feel more natural, or does comedy feel more natural?
Well, that's tricky, because when it comes to Flash, for example, it's a strong character piece. I feel really at ease when I'm playing that character. I feel like I understand this character very well, and though it's a comedy, I take it very seriously. Otherwise, I think we're leaning too far into it, especially if it's a documentary, right? You've got layers to the comedy. You've got what he wants you to see, and you have the reality of him,
Right.
So I think it was really important to take it very seriously, but I don't really think about it differently, or I try not to, because I think the comedy comes out of the truth. And when playing something truthful,
Right.
there's not, I at least didn't approach it very differently, but the approach and the process was a lot different. So yeah, I thought it was very easy, and I think just getting to play in general, and sort
Right.
of just like getting to play in the process of creating this and finding out the truth. I just didn't feel contained. I think I'm really drawn to that, to improv, to being an open collaborator.
Well, like I said, I mean, everything felt very natural in the conversations, like you were, really going through it yourself. So, all right, one quick question before we get to our famous nerdy question. I had not heard about this film until I got an email from John, so I don't know much about what's going on. Have you had your big premiere yet for large audiences, or is that about to happen? Sorry, have you had like your big premiere yet for this film, or is that about to happen?
we had so our film premiered at Heartland International in October.
Okay.
And it was, so yes, we had 2 screenings there, and the turnout was actually really good, and the feedback was great, and it was my first time as a feature filmmaker in front of an audience, and that was pretty magical. I just couldn't believe it, and I'm still, I don't know what's gonna be like at Slamdance, but I think we're gonna really have a great time. I know James and Sam, you want to speak to,
Yeah. Well, I feel like when people see it and then you tell them that you made this only for $20,000, they're gonna be like, "What? You didn't spend more money on this film?" So, and I think that's one of the things that makes it absolutely beautiful. All right, I know we're running out of time, so I got to get to our very famous nerdy question that's only unique to that nerd show. So here it is. I want everybody to answer truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
If you could have a weapon of choice or a superpower from the nerd universe to fight the forces of evil, what would you choose? And James, we haven't heard from you throughout the interview. Sorry about that. So I'm actually going to start with you on that question.
Oh my God, I'm gonna get thrown that question. No, I mean that's like the hardest question. What would be your superpower that you would want to fight the evils of the universe?
Or both.
Jesus.
People like to pick two.
I guess I don't, to be really sort of get into it with our zone, it'd be like the most unbelievable filmmaker to be able to tell stories that transform and impact people in ways that they never knew could impact them. So it's all in the intellectual, visual, mind entertainment, I guess.
All right, cool. We're gonna go with Professor Xavier and being able to control minds, and I think that's really great if you're a filmmaker.
Yeah.
For the nerd, that's what we equate it to. Samuel, how about you?
I think, look, I mean, I'd have to take I'd have to seriously think about, if I'm fighting the forces of evil. I don't know if I'd have to really think about that, but I'd say my superhero or my superpower of choice would be sort of the ability to morph, kind of like Beast Boy, or so I can kind of be kind of whatever the situation needs me to be.
Nice.
And I can just rely on my wits. Ling?
We have not had that answer in quite a while. That's a great one. So,
Good.
and how about you, Miss Director?
I think I want to be invisible whenever I want to.
That's a great documentarian filmmaker answer.
Yes, I mean, it's the world right now. It's just information. It's information everywhere, and I guess and you don't know what is valuable, like exactly, or like what is truthful, or maybe just maybe, if you're invisible, sometimes you can get a little bit more access to truth. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, all right. Well, all great answers. Like I said, it was a very beautiful film. Can't believe you did so much on a limited budget. And good luck with it. Can't wait to see what happens with it. And I know you're already writing your next feature. And for our audience out there, check Samuel out and welcome to the Flex. You can, if you don't have cable, which most people don't, it is on Hulu and it's extremely funny. So, all right, I'm going to turn it back.